A visit to Grandma's house. Elliot tugged his coat tighter as the brisk winter wind howled around him. The countryside stretched endlessly, fields blanketed in snow, glistening under the pale afternoon sun. It had been years since he'd visited his grandmother's house, a small cottage nestled at the edge of the woods. Life in the city had swallowed him whole: work, friends, and the constant hum of busyness. But now, with a long weekend and a nagging feeling of guilt, he was finally making the journey. The cottage looked just as he remembered. A quaint, red-bricked home with a crooked chimney and a garden gate that squeaked when opened. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, promising warmth inside. I hesitated for a moment at the door, unsure why I felt so nervous, and knocked gently. Grandma's face lit up like the sun itself as she pulled me into a tight hug, the scent of lavender and freshly baked bread filling my senses. Inside, the house was a haven of comfort. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Knitted blankets draped over chairs, and shelves overflowed with books and knickknacks. On the dining table sat a plate of her famous sugar cookies, still warm. We spent the afternoon talking, laughter bubbling up as she told stories of her youth, how she used to dance in the village square and sneak apple pies from her mother's kitchen. She listened intently as I spoke about my life in the city, her wise eyes catching every nuance in my words. After a while, she smiled knowingly and wiped her hands on her apron. She turned toward the kitchen counter, where flour, butter, and apples waited. She suggested we make a pie. "Nothing makes the world slow down quite like baking," she said. Together, we worked in the cozy kitchen, peeling apples, rolling dough, and sprinkling cinnamon. The act of creating something simple, yet meaningful, brought a strange sense of calm to me. As the pie baked, the sweet aroma filled the house, mingling with the warmth of the fire. That night, after a hearty slice of pie and a warm cup of tea, I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. The sounds of the countryside, a distant owl, the creak of the old house lulled me into a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, before I left, she handed me a small box wrapped in a checkered cloth. Inside was another pie, carefully packed. For when I needed to slow down again, she said. As I drove away, the box resting on the passenger seat, I realized she was right. It wasn't the grand gestures or endless deadlines that mattered. It was the warmth of a hug, the joy of baking a pie, and the quiet wisdom of someone who loved me. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled, not for a camera or a colleague, but just for myself. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next video.